Good morning. We'll come to order. I believe we have a quorum here. Go ahead and run through introductions.
Good morning. I'm Norm Steen, Taylor County Commissioner.
Good morning. Tyler Stevens, Mayor Pro Tem, Green Mountain Falls.
Good morning. Councils from Colorado Springs.
Neil Levy, Mayor, Woodland Park.
Gabe Ortega, Mayor, City of Fountain.
Turner Smith, a trustee from Town of Rima.
Good morning, Rod Chisholm, Deputy Garrison Commander at Fort Carson.
Hi, I'm Chris Kalkleischer with the CDPHE Air Pollution Control Division.
I'm Rich Birchfield, representing Colonel Doug Shess, Peterson Air Force Base.
Colonel Ken Olson, representing Colonel Dunn, I'm the Mission Support Group Commander at the Air Force Academy.
Good morning, Jason Generis, Mission Support Group Commander, representing the 50th Space Wing, Colonel Deanna Burt.
Mark Dwalby, Park County Commissioner.
Good morning, Jill Gabler, City of Colorado Springs.
Daryl Glenn, El Paso County Commissioner.
Rafael Dominguez, Mayor of Monument.
Nolan Schreiner, State Transportation Commissioner from this district.
Karen Rowe, Region 2 CDOT, Region Transportation Director.
Good morning, Rob McDonald, PPACG.
Sally Clark, El Paso County Commissioner.
Omaha.
Does that mean you hiked the ball? I know.
That means congratulations to the Broncos.
And Pico City of Colorado Springs. And Karen, good to see you. First, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the approval as published? If none, we'll proceed. Any public comments? It's time for anyone from the public to address any issue which is not currently on the agenda. And seeing none, we'll move on. The items we have on consent. We have 4 items on the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent.
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving right along. CDOT monthly updates. And we have part of this also, the STAC Advisory Committee discussion.
Good morning. Mark Andrew with CDOT. I'm going to hand out a couple handouts on our Faster Safety and RPP program, just quickly go through those projects. But what I want to really focus on is our 2020 funding for Faster Safety and RPP as it affects Pikes Peak COG. And we'll be coming back to the board with final recommendations after we meet with the board in a workshop setting where we can discuss projects. With that said, there really isn't a lot of funding with our RPP program. That's our regional priority program for 2020 because a lot of that funding is going into Cimarron. So briefly, the 2 handouts that I gave you is our 17 through 20 look at projects. And most of these projects you're aware of. If you'll focus on 2020.
Do we have extra handouts?
Yeah, they're coming around.
Oh, Gabe.
I'll slow down a little
Gabe,
bit.
were you just hoarding those?
We'll slow down a little bit, but what I wanted to say was essentially you're getting about $3 million of RPP, 2.5 million of RPP in 2020. And we had in our draft plan that is also going around identified a year ago that we were going to put $500,000 on the I-25, State Highway 21 Powers Corridor design to get projects like research ready to go on the shelf, and then address any other design needs that we have on Powers. One of the board's priorities is research as well as looking at maybe potential interchanges or continuous flow intersections at Constitution. So we do have $500,000 on Powers that we would like to use with your RPP funds to fund that need. With that said, the old list had $1 million in 8th Street and US 24. With the Cimarron interchange, we are seeing the need to move that money simply because the construction of Cimarron will make extensive improvements at 8th Street. And so we don't see the need to keep that $1 million in 8th Street, so we're proposing to move that $1 million to the I-25 PEL project, which is being run by our sister region in Region 1. And I know it's a board priority to move that project along.
What does PEL stand for?
Planning and Environmental Linkage Study.
Thank you.
So I apologize if I'm hoarse this morning, but so that
Acronym means.
from Sunday, yeah, I've been a little hoarse from Sunday yelling and screaming at the TV. So, but
it worked.
It did work. So anyway, the $1 million that we had slated for 8th Street, we'd like to see that in the I-25 North PEL study. We presented this to the TAC and the CAC, and there was, they were in favor of that as well. So again, this would help get that study moving along for I-25 from Monument up to C-470. And another commitment that we had made was $1 million to put in the US 24 PEL to fund the remaining portion of that. And we would like to do that to keep that study moving along because we don't have the full funding to complete that study. So 2 important corridors for PPACG. We think that putting $1 million in each one of those is a good plan. So that's really the only change in the 17 through 20 plan. And then briefly, I did pass out a 20 through 25 plan with some projects slated there. 2020 is shown. And that has not changed from the draft plan that we submitted a year ago. Some of you may not recall seeing this, but we did have a couple projects on there that in the future we're looking at funding more design on Powers Boulevard, and then the 67 north of Woodland Park widening project. It does say drainage, but that project is one that the city is getting on the shelf currently, so we would like to at least fund that in 2024, if not sooner. Another project is improvements at Cascade, and I know that there's some interest in making additional pedestrian improvements and intersection improvements there, so we've kind of flagged that $2 million. In addition, we have some ongoing drainage issues up there that we'd like to address too. So that is one project that we would like to fund sooner if we can, but again, we want to put it on the list.
Commissioner Koff?
Yeah, so Mark, just to jog my memory, obviously, is this at Cascade where the Pikes Peak Highway is, so that for reference point?
Yes.
And but it's not scheduled until potentially 2025, which is that correct, or am
Right.
I?
The money would be available in 2024, but the money could be available sooner, up to 4 years sooner. So we're probably 3 or 4 years out from being able to use that money.
Okay. Just because, I mean, we were successful in getting the grant from the state to make that 3-mile connection for the Ute Pass Trail to Green Mountain Falls above Chipeta Park, or Ute Pass Elementary, sorry, Ute Pass Elementary School in Chipeta Park, and just wondering whether that could be brought up sooner. If that trail goes through, we're going to need those improvements because of the pedestrian access. We want people to make sure they can, and with all the work that the city's doing on the Summit House, it kind of makes sense to figure out how we work those all in conjunction together.
Right. I think Karen had a comment she wanted to make regarding that project.
Well, one thing I just want to point out, or as a reminder, is that CDOT is in a program with cash management where we can use any funds within the 4-year period. So the reason why we're coming to you right now for the 2020 funds is that those will become available July 1st of this year.
Oh, okay.
But what I would say, that this is flexible, the whole thing is flexible, and as flexible as you guys want to be. So we do understand there's changing priorities, there's changing needs. So I have to keep in mind all the funding for all the plannings and planning area regions, TPRs, as well as MPOs, to make sure everyone gets their fair share over the 10 years. That's why we have it up to 2025 right now. But if there's a bigger need for that and we need to move something else out, then we adjust other projects accordingly. So, those are things we need to hear.
So we're happy it's on the list, I guess.
Right.
It's outlined on the list, so great.
It's on the list, and if we need to reprioritize stuff, we can. Also, with cash management or something that's changed, faster safety is statewide kind of distribution, and you need to apply for it. You need to meet a certain benefit cost ratio. What I would say is Region 2 has benefited from that. So we've got more than what you may consider our quote-unquote fair share. Like if you were to distribute it, but like RPP, we'd have gotten more than what our percentage is. So, for example, we got, $2.2 million added on to Powers to do a change order to add more ACL, DCL lanes in this year. And but RPP is especially distributed. But if we have savings on a project, that comes back to us. So again, it's like, okay, you need money there. Let's figure out how much money we need, and let's see how much savings we have on other projects or other needs, and then see if we can move that up.
Okay.
As a priority.
Thanks.
So regarding your comment, yeah, there may be additional opportunities to be able to fund that, and faster safety may be an opportunity to at least address some of the, if we have a safety issue up there, we may be able to mix some of that. But like Karen said, there may be an opportunity to move some funding around here in this to move priorities. So.
I really appreciate seeing the 8th Street on here too, the right of way and design, and that's going to be critical to completing the Cimarron and I-25 project and making sure that traffic flows better. So thank you very much for the work you put in there.
Say, Mark, one other clarification. On the $2 million, is that all RPP money? Is that the total amount of the project for the Highway 67 north of Woodland Park? That's not just drainage, as you said, that's a widening project, correct?
Correct. So, yeah, the city has a design that they're putting on the shelf that we understand is around $2 million, maybe a little bit more than that. We don't have a final number on that, but it includes the drainage improvements and the 4-lane widening for the 2 miles extension from where the 2 miles ends.
And if what Karen said is true, that money could be available as early as 2020?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then, again, going down the list, we did have...
Mayor,
I'm
do you have
sorry.
a question?
Yeah. Just a quick question for RPP 2025. The $1.35 million for Berta payoff.
Mark, scratch that.
Okay, that's what I was.
Paid off. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's something we missed from last time.
Just keep it coming.
Yeah, just keep it coming.
Hey, Rob, did you have some?
Yeah, I think this is just a couple of funding categories. Just a reminder for the board, we're in the process to do the Transportation Improvement Program update. So if you see RPP, it may be combined with other projects to fully fund some of these. So this may just be partial funding for some of the state highway corridors. So just keep that in mind. This will feed into that TIP process. So when you have the 6-year TIP through 2022, all these would be in there, but you may see different, I guess, rows that would fully fund some of the other projects.
So, yeah, I think what we really want to focus on 2020 so we can lock that funding into those projects, but take away from 2021 on that we have some like Karen said, flexibility to move that money around. And we do actually have some flexibility, of course, to move money. For example, on the US 24 corridor, we've got a lot of money slated for 8th Street, 31st, 21st Street, and potentially Ridge Road that we can move money around to fill needs there as well. So,
Mayor Pro Tem Stevens, you have something?
Just a quick technical question on your highways. It looks like you've designated sections by letters. Is that right? Do you have definitions of where those breakpoints are? I'm looking at US 24G and US 24A and where those are. I'm guessing it goes through your region.
right, and we tried to make it somewhat flexible, but we can put more milepost description, if you will, with the project name. So when we do another draft, we'll do that. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of get it, but if you don't necessarily know where G
Right.
is that all the way at the end, or is
Right.
it in the middle, or is that?
The other thing that we'd like to do is, when we come with the final plan, we're looking at providing a graphic showing where these projects are. We did that last year. We'd like to do that again. So I'm going to do a quick update on current projects that we've got going out this year. We do have some projects we're advertising this spring and fall. As I spoke earlier, the Manitou overlay is going out this spring. Likely it'll be advertised in May. We'll complete most of that work in late summer and fall. We do have an overlay coming out from I-25 from Lake to Nevada. That also will include the MLK bypass. It's about a $6 million project that will resurface that section south of Nevada that we've been having issues with, the bump at the bridge on the south end of the Nevada bridge. We'll try to address that too. We do have some box culvert repair that we'd like to make up in Monument and at South Douglas Creek north of Fillmore. We've had some issues with flooding there, and it's taken out our wing walls. We'd like to repair those. That will come out this spring as well. We're doing a guardrail project on I-25 south of Colorado Springs that we'd like to extend the median guardrail where we've been having some accidents down there. So we'd like to address that. And then we are extending the on-ramp at I-25 and Academy for northbound. That project will go out this spring. And then we are doing a repair at Rock Rimmon for the interchange that will smooth out that ride, repair some of the expansion devices, and then also some of the slabs that have been settling. But we will get that out late fall next year, and we'll construct that through next year to improve that ride through that interchange. So those are the projects coming up. And just briefly, Dave Watt is going to give you a 2-minute update on Cimarron, because we've got some important changes coming up on that. So,
Trustee Smith?
I see that you've got funding in here for an overlay out to Garrett on Highway 24 East. And I see some money in there for a study on 24 East. But when would we expect 24 to be widened further out?
yeah, that question came up last time, and we have to get the study done to identify projects, and then look at limits of where we could do improvements and how we could package those projects. And widening would likely be the alternative that's proposed. Obviously, we've got congestion out there, so we would focus from Dodge Garrett out to Stapleton as a potential widening project. And right now, there's no funding identified for that segment. With that said, if we get that project further along, potentially on the shelf, as different new revenue sources come in, that could be a future project that we could do. Again, it depends on if money falls out of the sky and how quickly we can get a project like that ready to go. But that's our focus, is to get through the study, identify the cost,
Waiting for a while.
get a project on the shelf as quick as we can, and then see what comes of that. So to answer your question, I can't give you a time frame, but I can tell you that we could possibly get a project ready to go if funding came along in the next 4 years.
Thank you.
Also, part of US 24 East is in the Central Front Range TPR. So I know Victoria Chavez is very an advocate for funding and improvements along that 24 corridor. So sometimes you may not see funding here, but it could be in the Central Front Range TPR for other projects beyond this, the limits of this Pikes Peak area.
Thanks, Mark.
Dave Watt, one of Mark's and Karen's resident engineers here in the North Program. As Mark mentioned, there's some important changes coming up, but I want to emphasize these are good changes. The project at I-25 in Cimarron is progressing well. It's, in general, on schedule and on budget. The changes Mark is referring to is we're going out of what have been called Phase 0, where there have been no traffic impacts to US 24 main line or the interstate. That's going to change coming up here next month. In the middle part of the month, we'll begin what is called Phase 1. So you'll start seeing some work to reconfigure the ramps in the southwest part of the interchange, and the new southbound temporary ramp will be this summer, to where you will no longer be exiting on the curve south of the overpass. Rather, if you're heading south to downtown Carl Springs, you'll exit the highway much like you do with the standard diamond configuration north of the overpass. So that'll be some changes coming up soon. You'll start seeing some work on the southbound I-25 mainline bridges. Where you see those sticks of steel, the H-piling that are driven to the ground, the contracting team with Kramer will be continuing on with the construction of those structures and providing that new overpass over US 24 and over Fountain Creek. There'll be some night work involved when we have to close a lane to demo a structure or pour a deck, those sort of things, but there will be 3 lines open in each direction on I-25 throughout the day. Another change you're going to see here coming up in the upcoming weeks is a concrete batch plant. That doesn't sound very exciting, but there'll be a rather large batch plant where they're going to create the concrete and create the mixes that'll go into these concrete structures. And so rather than having concrete trucks go through the town, there'll be an on-site batch plant right there. We think that'll also help
We
better
think it's
control
very
the quality.
exciting. Some of us do. So I like concrete batch plants.
Thank you, Commissioner
especially
Clark.
temporary ones, so that they can get the work done.
It's temporary, and there's really a good side to it. Like I said, not so much traffic through the area leading up to the project.
I like batch plants.
There'll be some traffic switches on US 24. I think you can see where we're building the structure over Fountain Creek, or what will be over Fountain Creek, south of the current alignment, and there'll be some shifts on there once that part of that deck structure gets in place, so we'll start shifting traffic on US 24. So I think these are good changes. It's showing the progress that we had been anticipating. You've seen the big mound of dirt that's been built up overnight. What you haven't probably been able to see and tell is that has settled about 9 inches on the existing ground with the weight of that material. This was anticipated, so again, that's a good thing that settlement is going out of that material, and that should be a stable embankment for the highway coming down. And we're on the contract will be on the clock here a little bit. There's our 550-day window from now till we have substantial completion. That takes us to the fall of 2017, and we'll keep providing updates on our budget and schedule and how we're progressing. I would ask if there's any questions on
Commissioner Steen?
Yes,
Commissioner Steen.
thanks for the update, really. We have heavy freight shipments moving up to the Cripple Creek Victor mine 24/7, fuel and lime shipments around the clock. do we expect any weight or over width restrictions at any point on any day?
I'll verify that, but I don't anticipate that. We'll check with our permit office, and actually I can check with the engineers. I think we're going to have, I know there will not be any weight restrictions. These are highway rated temporary structures that are right now being built over Fountain Creek. Actually, that temporary structure is built, and they're carrying weight over it. The width is my hesitation, but I don't believe there's going to be any weight or width restrictions.
You mentioned lane closures middle of the night. That wouldn't affect as well either?
If they are, we're going to get the notification out. And these would not be consistent. We will make sure we get the notification out to not only the public, but the industry that needs to use the highways to get up to the mines.
Just make sure that, maybe ensure that the mine is on your notification list.
We'll do that.
Real helpful. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, Sally's temporary concrete batch plant, is that going to be southeast corner there of Cimarron and 8th Street?
It'll be the southeast
Behind the gas
corner.
station there?
Yes, behind the gas station.
Ah, there it is.
Mayor, you nailed it. Southeast corner of 8th and 24, or the southwest corner of the interchange under construction.
Realize we're going to put that name on it now.
Yeah, Sally's batch
Sally's
plant.
batch
I
plant,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Sally, do you have another
I'm
comment?
pretty good at cooking things up, so. Dave, I have one question, if I might, Mr.
please.
Chair. I wanted to, I don't really have necessarily a question. I just wanted to thank you, too, for I think the great communication that you're doing. The newsletter updates really do help to keep everybody informed. And then I was wondering, too, if we could get some of us who might be interested in doing this is doing an on-site tour kind of, doing a hard hat tour of some of the construction so that we can really get our eyes on it to really see what's going on. Because, I drive by it every day, and I watch the construction going on, which is amazing. But it would be helpful to kind of maybe walk at whatever point that works to do kind of an on-site tour, I think would be good.
I think we can do that I don't think we want to take the whole board out there. I don't want to discourage anybody.
No
but I think
sledgehammers
we
this
can-
time, but maybe hard hats, so.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything, Karen, you wanted to add?
I just want to say thanks to Mark and my team, Wendy and Dave and others for covering things in my absence, and I appreciate your patience. I'm back full-time. However, I just am not quite back at what I consider my full capacity. So if you could be patient with me, I may not stay for the whole meeting today. But if you do have any concerns, I'm available by email or phone call, or if you'd like to schedule a meeting with me, that would be fine in advance of that. But, really, I think what I've gone through has taught me a lot of lessons, but also it's what a team means, and that my team can come in and cover for me in my absence is important, and I appreciate the good job you've done. And I'll probably keep that delegation a little bit more. I'm not always good at delegating, so it's helped me become better at that too. So if you have any concerns or questions, let me know. But we will be, we are asking that what we're moving forward on 2020 is okay, because with our planning process, we need to do all the steps to put it in place by July 1st, knowing that there's always changing priorities. If there's any changes, you'll see a TIP amendment come through here for your approval that goes through the process. But we're always open to adjusting things as needed. So, and thanks everyone for the good wishes. I do appreciate it. And I'm on my way up. I'm just not quite there yet to the top. Thank you.
Ms. Schreiner, yes.
A couple of comments. First of all, I think Karen's working more than she needs to be. She's been spending quite a bit of time with me, and I'm quite impressed with Karen in her knowledge and also the direction that she's given to the staff. And Mark and everybody has done a great job over the last 4 months that I've been involved. So I just want to give them a compliment. The other thing is that I'm assuming that everybody's aware and supports the $1 million being spent out of our district on the interstate going north. and because I would like to talk about that at the commission meetings up in Denver, because I do think that we need to show support for that, because we have less support in Douglas County than we do down here. So anyway, I wanted to point that out. And then, Mark, if you can give everybody a timeline on that study and actually what happens after that study.
Sure.
Just so everybody's aware of it.
Sure. The timeline is, well, we're looking at, when we say we, CDOT Region 1 is hiring a consultant right now, and they're at the end part of that process. They're selecting one soon, next week or two. They'll get them under contract in the next few months, and then they'll kick that study off, and those typically take about 2 years to do. The good thing about a PEL study, planning and environmental linkage study, is it gets you almost halfway there for an environmental document like an EA or an EIS. So it really isn't a waste, but what it does is it does give you the opportunity to not spend as much money to kind of refine the direction you want to go. So the next step after that 2 years, it may take another year to do an environmental document like an EA or an EIS, depending on where it goes. Could be 2 years. So my guess is we're probably anywhere from 3 to 4 years out from being able to clear that corridor for some type of construction project. Now, with that said, there's always ways to accelerate that process. And if there's an urgent need or a push to do that, it may happen sooner. But with that said, they are looking at options for tolling, like managed lanes, options to pay for itself. With that said, they're also going to look at other alternatives to potentially fund it with another source of funds. So I don't think the managed lanes is necessarily the final decision. They're going to have to go through that process, but there's really no funding source to build that section. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Commissioner.
Well, I'm glad you pointed that out, because it has come up. I mean, the managed lane idea on that piece of the interstate has been talked about, and that's a source of funds. I don't think that anybody believes that it will fund itself, even with managed lanes. So I'm hoping they're looking at not only managed lanes, but just the additional lanes both directions.
And just to let everybody know, we have put one of our staff folks on that project to assist, and then I know there's been a lot of interest from El Paso County and Monument to be involved, and we expect that. Obviously, we're going to give money to that study. We expect to be involved in that, so we'll make sure that happens. So some good news. The project is coming about. So.
And I just want to add on to what Nolan, Commissioner Schreiner has said, and Mark, is that I think we need to make this a priority and talk about how important it is, because for Region 1, they have so many other areas, and really this widening isn't their highest priority. So we need to, it really benefits Colorado Springs. I consider that widening benefiting Colorado Springs in a lot higher capacity than necessarily it benefits Denver when they have so many other areas they're looking at for improvements. So we do have a division called the Office of Major Project Development and HPTE, High Performance Transportation Enterprise, and we've asked them to get involved early also to, like you said, it may not pay for itself, but to look at public-private partnerships as the study moves forward to see ways that it could happen. And they are looking at, from their perspective, they're looking at it from Monument to C470. So if you ever see something that says Monument to C470, in essence, that's this. And the reason why is they're looking at that connection to the possible toll lanes. But again, the study will say what's needed for that. We can't say for sure. They just say, let's study it all the way to that point and see what we can do.
Commissioner Clark?
I might point out too, and I'm hearing a little bit from my folks up in the Palmer Lake area, that what's happening is all that traffic that keeps getting clogged when there's accidents, like almost every day at Monument, that they're routing off into Palmer Lake, and so that's putting a lot of stress too. I think we should, if we could, as part of that study, look and see what kind of traffic is rerouting. The unfortunate thing, I guess, for the town is that it's not necessarily, they're not stopping and doing shopping or eating, they're just trying to get through. And I have to say, I'm one of them that has gone through on a pretty regular basis through the Palmer Lake area, because it just, once it shuts down, and there's no other way to go except that if you go to the other, if you're on the other side, you can go north. Of course, then you're going through other parts and through Parker. So there really isn't much alternative. And we did kind of exchange, I think, essentially we did the improvements to Monument, but then we haven't gotten that other leg done, which is critical right now, and sort of prioritize now Cimarron. Now we got to go back north, and I think use that as a priority. So, Commissioner, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and just one comment on the accidents that we've had. We do have more of a focus on operations for I-25. In fact, we've assigned an individual as our operation manager for the I-25 corridor, which includes, I think it's state line to state line, but they're going to focus on really Colorado Springs through Fort Collins, and look at opportunities to improve operations. And operations also includes ideas of accident mitigation strategies, and I don't know what those might look like, but we've looked at variable speed limits, more VMS signing, additional striping, things like that may or may not help. But with that said, I know we've got the study going. There's going to be more of a focus on trying to reduce those incidents if we can to improve that travel time reliability.
Yes.
Similarly to what Sally was saying about the accidents plugging up I-25 and traffic being diverted, every time there's an accident on I-70 and it is closed for some reason, a lot of that traffic goes out Highway 24, and that Highway 24 gets a lot of heavy truck traffic on it then, and it does serve the 5 bases in this area. So I would just ask that be included in your study, that you look at it from that angle, because you might not pick it up in on a normal day, if you would, when there's not an accident, but it does occur.
Right. So that's going to be the focus, is mainly looking at not only I-25 but other corridors to see if we can make improvements for operations. So it's not just going to be I-25 as well, but I-25 is where we're getting a lot of those incidents that is causing a massive delay, and CDOT's noticing that. So we can't wait for a widening project or a capacity project to address those. So.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you very much. We also have, as part of this, taking a look at the stack agenda that normally has been in the past later in the agenda, but we thought we'd roll it up into this and see how that works out.
Sure. Each of the topics on your agenda I've covered before. There's no new updates. The most substantive, I think, is the legislative update, which I think are reserved for Rachel Beck's comments later in the agenda. So unless there are any specific questions you've got, I'd be glad to take those if you have them. Mayor, Chair, back to you.
Okay. Military installation reports. Gentlemen?
I'll go first. Rod Chisholm, Fort Carson again. From a command group at Fort Carson, everything's stable right now. General Gonzalez still commanding the 4th Infantry Division in Fort Carson. Of note, though, we do have 2 deputy commanding generals for the 4th Infantry Division, Brigadier General Mingus and Brigadier General Dirty. And they are rotating every 6 months out to Europe, to Germany, in case you didn't know. So if you see a different brigadier general representing Fort Carson and community and other official functions, and it's because they're rotating out. We have an ongoing mission as we're aligned with some NATO forces in Europe, and so one of our commanding generals, for at least for the near future, will be there on a rotating basis. So I thought I would mention that. Also, last time in December, we reported here that our troop population was probably the largest it had been at Fort Carson for a number of years, because the deployment cycles is such that we had a lot of folks home, and that was a great opportunity for the holidays. Now we're starting to see the population go down a little bit. Our Combat Aviation Brigade, a lot of the soldiers there and a lot of the air assets have deployed, and we're getting ready for another brigade combat team, not the whole brigade, but a good portion of it to be deploying in the spring. So the population's just starting to go down, but the installation itself is very stable. If you look at the numbers from the last announcement of reductions from the Department of the Army, Fort Carson still is one of the 6 installations with over 20,000 soldiers to be assigned to it as we go into the future. Currently we have 26,000, so it's still considerably one of the largest posts in the continental United States. Another thing is, that's good news, but we are experiencing in all of the Department of Defense, and I'm sure sister installations as well, in the Air Force, we're dealing with budget changes, and it's going down. So we're doing all the planning to affect less dollars available for contract services, infrastructure repair, trying to minimize any risk, but we are going through that process right now. And then at Fort Carson, we do have what's called a warfighter exercise that's currently ongoing. And I bring that up because that's more of a command exercise where it's command and control. General Gonzalez has been dedicated to that for the past 10 days. But we have the Chief of Staff of the Army visiting this week, some other 3-star generals to include the Installation Management Command commanders coming, and some folks like that. So you're going to see probably some vignettes in the news of some interviews of some of the higher level generals in the Department of the Army that are visiting Fort Carson and this general area. The last thing I would bring up is that we're fully engaged in supporting the JLUIS. Technical committee has been meeting. Fort Carson's got its training personnel, its public works personnel, and looking forward to a policy committee meeting later this month.
Rich Birchfield, representing Colonel Doug Shess, who's our installation commander out at Peterson. We had 2 big meetings last month that we really appreciate all the civic and military leadership who were able to attend. The first was getting ready for the 9/11 commemoration ceremony. We did decide as a collective community we are going to conduct it on that. It's a Sunday this year, and folks had some concerns with regard to other events, but everyone agreed that we need to maintain the integrity of the event and what it really represents, and everyone bought into that 100%. So I really appreciate everyone's support on that. And our theme's going to be our community remembers. We want to make sure that it comes across as just that. It's a community remembrance, and not just it happens to be on a military installation, but we're all working this together. And some subcommittees are being formed right now so that different worker bees from different areas can get everything in order. And I think you're going to find it to be a great event off the heels of what Fort Carson did this past September. We also had the first meeting of our Community Partner Initiative, which is a conglomeration of city, county, our fellow installation representatives there, looking at how we can share resources and collaborate together, save money, or personnel, if you will, and resources that way. We've got a couple packages in D.C. right now just waiting for approval. They're rock solid. And what's interesting is we collectively are pushing them. Headquarters Air Force is the initial sponsor for this, although we collectively, whether it's green suit or blue, are working together with our local community. I think we're giving them more than they expected. So they need a little more time to do some reviewing. But the thing is, what we're giving them is being noticed by other CPI initiatives taking place across the country because of what we're doing. So we're continuing to put Colorado Springs on the map as a great community that works closely together, and we'll have more information on that. And then just a reminder to save the date for the 15th of April. That's going to be the 50th anniversary of Shine Mountain. not NORAD, but Shine Mountain. And there's going to be quite a celebration going on. So each month we'll be sharing more information with you all. And that'll be civic and military involved. Let's do.
That's a hard date to remember, just so you know, April 15th.
You know, I didn't think about it till right now. Yeah, there you go. A little star by that one.
The IRS and Cheyenne Mountain
There you go.
Complex.
But that's it from Peterson. Thanks.
Hi, Colonel Ken Olson from Air Force Academy. Not much to report from the Air Force Academy. We continue our community engagements with our the surrounding people right there on our boundaries, working through our issues. Just one thing to note, and I brought it up last meeting, but the State of USAF is currently scheduled for the 12th of April. For General Johnson, we'll get invites out to the local community leaders sometime in March. I don't have an exact date for when those will be coming out, but that's all from the Air Force Academy.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning. Jason Janaris, representing Colonel Deanna Burton, the 50th Space Wing. I just want to highlight a few things on behalf of the Installation Commander. One, as a save the date, similar to what the Academy is doing, we're going to be rolling out a state of the base at Schriever as well. That's going to be on the 2nd of March from 9 o'clock to 12. Many of you should have already received that invite, and we'll continue to work with your offices respectfully. Second thing I wanted to bring to your attention was the Mountain Metro Transit. So just as a quick background, the way I understand it, in January of 2010, the Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit cut its scheduled bus services to Schriever and Fort Carson after the failure of Referendum 2C. So there was approximately 60 to 7 riders that utilize this and 250 applications per month for passes. I know in the past it's been briefly readdressed, but would like to bring this again to a potential feasibility study. In particular, it's been noted from our logistics staff and working with the local area to include Peterson and Fort Carson that there is a great need. I also take this opportunity to tell you that every chance I get to address public forums and civic leaders, that Highway 94 continues to be a safety concern for us. We are, as we do our snow calls, on a different universe than Peterson Air Force Base, and the big limiting factor continues to be 94. So any plug I can get for the safety and development of that area writ large is one I'll take the opportunity to do so. So in that vein, this transportation service also serviced a great deal of our young airmen, and for those that aren't aware, we have no dormitories at Schriever. So all of our first-term airmen and young airmen are actually housed at Peterson Air Force Base, which causes a multitude of issues, as you might imagine, to include the safety and concern of these young airmen, and it puts them in a risk category, high-risk category, particularly ones that aren't from winter areas. So those things are all to be discussed within the Mountain Metro support. So the bottom line is I request a feasibility and capability study to relook or reintroduce potential services. And from my vantage point, and again on behalf of Colonel Burt, if we do and we're able to reintroduce this, would love to take a look at the new Center Point, Space Village, and Schriever Air Force Base route first, again, because of the aforementioned safety concerns we have. So I wanted to, again, highlight that. And lastly, I just wanted to, again, thank you for the time and the ability to come here and speak really on behalf of our installations as we continue to grow and partner forward. And on that note, from Schriever's standpoint, we have a great deal of MOUs, understanding and agreements with the local area, El Paso, Ellicott, et cetera. And truly, based on our jurisdiction and where we are in a remote and isolated area, we really effectively could not do our jobs and mission without the help of the leaders in this room. So I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on. Executive Director's report.
Great. Let me start letting the board know we have a new environmental program manager. We didn't do full introductions around the room, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Good morning. My name is Peter Gillespie. I'm filling the position vacated by Rich Muzzy. Big shoes to fill. Pleased and honored to be here, and I look forward to working with many, perhaps all of you, over time. I come by way of, prior to this, a private consulting engineer for a number of years. I worked prior to that a major oil company for about 10 years. Prior to that, time as an academic researcher, and way back, my first job out of college was working with the Soil Conservation Service in beautiful Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. My family and I have lived here in the area for 5 years. They moved here from beautiful West Texas. We're happy to be here. It's a much nicer place to live and to visit, I assure you. So anyway, thank you, and please come see me and call me anytime.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's drinking from the fire hose and the air hose too. So we're glad to have Pete here, and you'll see him report on a variety of things as we integrate him into the board briefings. So stay tuned for that. Also, let me report on just yesterday and Monday, I was in D.C. at my National Association of Regional Councils. I sit on a national committee of about 20 folks of executive directors. Interesting to hear the topics. With the transportation bill now law, we're now focusing on a little bit of those rules, but that's not the big topic anymore. Since it got funded for 3.5 to 5 years, depending how you look at it. I met with Victor Mendez, who's now the deputy director of DOT. He used to be the federal highway folks, and some may remember he came out and dedicated the project at Woodman and Academy, that American Recovery Project. So it's good to see Victor again yesterday. And so the focus now, a lot of our folks are on area agencies on aging. So Joe and I have a lot of material to go through on upcoming legislation, hopefully renewal of the Older Americans Act, which is, boy, last time, 2006 or so, was the last time it was reauthorized. So our friends in Denver were out on the Hill, though they're on the Hill today, trying to look at more money for Colorado, depending on the formulas. So we're kind of turning our attention from that group on that particular issue. Certainly a lot of other issues around the country, but that seems to be the biggest ones. Also, you'll hear a little bit more about the Medicare open enrollment. That's on your agenda. That's also noted in my report. Also, our site assessment will report to the board either next month or the month after. State Unit on Aging, they do an annual review of our area agency on aging. So they've done that. They came up, as you see in the report, 26 issues. They call them compliance issues, which is a big number, but a lot of repeats. So as Joe and I walk through that, the RAC is going to look at that. So we'll have a response to them. We already have a draft, but we'll report on that as far as any actions that they may require of us. But right now it doesn't look that way. I think we'll probably have them all solved by the time we have the report done. Most of it is reporting things and things that are nonprofit partners that are doing under contract with us. If they get noted, we get noted. So we need to talk to them, and we'll have a more full brief on that coming up either next month or the month after that. Also wanted to touch on a little bit on staffing. You already heard about Pete. We have a transportation planner that's going to start March 1st, unless Craig waves me off and says she didn't want to come here March 1st. But she'll be here March 1st coming out of Boulder. So we're looking forward to have Jennifer start with us. We're finishing interviews again with 2 other positions in planning. Hopefully get those filled in the near future.
What's her name?
Jennifer Valentine.
Oh, that's easy to remember.
That's it,
Especially this month, right?
This month is easy.
There's a lot of Jennifers on
we're cornering the market. So we'll have to see if they go by Jennifer. So yeah, lots of those coming forth. We're moving ahead with the town of Alma, the comp plan, really coming along. We're going to be up there in 2 weeks, another public meeting to work on their comprehensive plan. And then I think the rest will stand as is. I'll take any questions on the report.
Any questions? Thank you.
Just and one other thing, I found my side note. Thank you all for submitting the dues. The PPACG dues went out to your organizations. I still will follow up with some of you today. 1 county and 4 municipalities. The dues is still due, so I'll check in with you to make sure you can help check in where that is. But the big dues is in, so Colorado Springs, El Paso County, thank you. Those checks, finance always gives me the list of who's paid and who's outstanding. So I'll find you outstanding folks in a little bit.
Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah.
Thanks for the coffee.
Me
That's
too.
Grab another cup.
The poor relations to the west, as they would say.
Okay. Thank you much. Transportation Advisory Committee, Jennifer? one of the many Jennifers.
I think here today, but good morning, Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County, but today your TAC chair. Happy to see you all here today, and hopefully nobody lost themselves at the Bronco Parade, but I saw a lot of good pictures on Facebook, so that's exciting. At our January meeting, we had a great meeting, and we had our annual election of officers, and all your officers stayed the same for this year, so we're all on our second term, so you'll probably see some changes next year. So Brian Vituli with Mountain Metro Transit, City of Colorado Springs, is the vice chair, and Victoria Chavez, the transportation planner with El Paso County, is also the second vice chair. So we also had an update from your meeting and discussed a couple items. One of the items that is noted here is the TIP amendment from last month that was approved, that was originally on your consent agenda and then pulled and added as a regular item. And so there were just some questions about that, and we had a good discussion about that. And I think there's some coordination that is ongoing with CDOT and PPACG in regards to scheduling of those items. So we got an update on the Buy America fourth quarter announcement, and so that's something that we deal with all the time, and all the local member governments are aware of that and don't expect any major impacts for the local members. Similar to what you saw today, we had a CDOT update on the fiscal year 2020 projects. Many of the questions that you guys had here today came up during our meeting, including the PEL study, the US 24 West intersection, Commissioner Clark, and also coordination with drainage at Woodland Park. So just wanted to let you know that all those items that you're bringing up, your member governments are bringing up as the same as well. For the TIP amendment number 11, the committee unanimously supported that with some minor corrections that we saw during our meeting, and those corrections are in your packet today in your item. So if there's any questions as that comes up, I'm available. The TIP amendment number 12, which is a consent administrative informational item, we also heard about and didn't have any concerns or issues with that. We talked about the status report for the fiscal year 2016 TIP. That is an item that PPACG needs some information from your member governments about, and that was discussed at the meeting, and we expect that to be an action item next month, both at the TAC and the board. Rachel did a great job, and I just want to thank her on the next item, our state legislation tracking items. We had some really good discussions about those, and this is one of the first times we've heard those. I know you've been hearing those all along, but she brought that to the TAC and I believe the CAC, and I just want to tell her how much I appreciate that, because hopefully we're giving her some good feedback from how that impacts the local governments. So really appreciate that, Rachel. And then we also had a discussion item in regards to a suggestion from El Paso County to revise the TIP policy, and this relates to allow for emergency relief funding to be allocated administratively since it's not competitive, and that's also later in your packet today. We kind of went around the room and had some head nods that made sense, and I anticipate that will be back as an action item for TAC next month. Our next meeting is February 18th, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next up is the Community Advisory Committee, CAC, Jen Nellinger.
Yeah,
Did I pronounce
another
that right?
Jen.
Another Jen, yeah.
Another Jen. Good morning. Happy to be here. Our meeting was pretty straightforward. We approved unanimously the action items that were on the agenda at the time. We also wanted to express that there was a lot of keen interest around the room in the joint land use study because of the breadth of the group is. So we'd like to be updated, and the community is very interested in the outcomes and the discussions that happen in that meeting. I also have a formal request. I mentioned it last time informally that we would like to review our bylaws. They have not been revised since 2008, and we feel like they need to be consistent, of course, with the PPACG's Board of Directors bylaws as well. So we need a few tweaks, and there's some discussion about adding a little bit more diversity to our community group. And there's also some discussion about the way that the terms turn over. And I think it's just a matter of time with the way that appointees are made, that we need to revise how that's done so it's not stressful for the staff, and that the education and knowledge of the committee that comes in is appropriate to deal with the issues that they're faced with. So, do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you. Regional Advisory Council, Joanne.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Joanne Ruth. I am the chairperson for the Regional Advisory Council for the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging. I am very happy that to say to you, to give a little special note of our provider presentations that were given this year, this last month, I'm sorry. It's a really rewarding demonstration of community collaboration of our funding sources. Not only do our funding sources make a big difference, but these particular agencies, the Innovations in Aging Collaborative, the Silver Key, Senior Services, and our UCCS Aging Center, they are working to greatly expand the opportunities that these monies provide. So I just want you to see that and note it and celebrate with us this positive adventure in our community. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. And Mobility Coordinating Committee, going back to Jennifer's again. Somehow that doesn't look like a Jennifer coming up. No?
Jennifer's not here today.
Oh, okay. Anyone else from the Mobility Coordinating Committee?
Let it stand as written.
Let it
They had
stand
no
as
action
written.
items, so
Okay.
they had updates from a few folks.
Okay. Any questions from the board? None. Okay. Moving on to the action items. TIP Amendment number 11.
I think Scott's got this one.
Good morning, everybody. Scott Phillips, Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments, Transportation Planner. Before you is Amendment number 11. This is a number of items are incorporated into this amendment. If we want to go through it, item by item. Item number 1 on the agenda in the amendment is the addition of 2 new projects. They're both safety hotspot funded by CDOT. The first one is at Powers and Bradley, and it's adding a new signal there. And the second one is at State Highway 16 and Mesa Ridge Parkway, and they're adding an additional left turn lane. And conversations with CDOT is that there's an existing left turn lane. They're adding an additional left turn lane at that intersection for safety reasons. Item number 2 is reconciliation for the 14-15 FY revenues for federal funds, CMAQ, TAP, and STIP Metro. If you look at it, we've added upon reconciliation, we've added $11,000 additional dollars to CMAQ for this year, as well as $2,000 additional dollars, $2,600 for TAP. As we go down STIP Metro, there was a decrease upon reconciliation, and that's a reduction of $84,992 from STIP Metro. We have not incorporated that yet into the TIP. We're going to workshop it with CDOT to make sure that we maintain our fiscal constraints in the TIP. Also, the Metro PL funds, which are the funds that come to PPACG, that's going to be reduced in the 2017 contract we have by $7,707. So, moving forward, number 3, item 3 is CDOT in Colorado Springs CDOT requested that we make a change with 3 projects. Colorado Springs is assuming responsibility for. Those are 3 turn signal projects at State Highway 21 in Constitution, State Highway 115 in Brookside, as well as Ramona at Washington intersection. In lieu of the swapping of those projects, or Colorado Springs assuming responsibility for the projects, CDOT is moving forward with 3 new projects in Woodland Park, which is great. Woodland Park in the TIP is not overly well represented, and this is an excellent opportunity for these projects on US 24. With that, it's US 24 on West Street. It's an addition of a new signal or upgrade of a signal. Also at Baldwin is a signal replacement, as well as Fairview in 24 with a signal replacement. It's just great. And also I'd like to thank CDOT for maintaining those funds and keeping them within the Pikes Peak region too. So thank you very much, and congratulations to Woodland Park. Item 4 again is our 2 additional projects. Again, CDOT is bringing to Woodland Park. So Woodland Park has really gotten the lion's share of new projects this month. That includes on 24 a crosswalk is a Hawk system, which is a high intensity activated crosswalk. So when you press it and the lights come on, and my understanding it's very needed at the location, as well as a flashing beacon on 24 in Morning Sun. And as we move forward, the very last item is CDOT's a request for adding funds to a project on I-25, the North Widening Project. And this incorporates a couple items, and I believe we have Mark can add to this, but we're adding additional $1.3 million in faster safety dollars, as well as additional $1.85 million in surface treatment funds. TAC and our TAC and CAC both agreed and recommended your approval for these amendments or these items, and we respectfully request your approval for these items to be added to the TIP.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Andy,
Yes.
Scott, I appreciate everyone recognizing Woodland Park. That's really nice. Number 3, it just says that PPACG has not received the acknowledgement from the City of Colorado Springs. Can you help us with that?
Sure.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
No letter yet.
Yeah, I happened to notice that too when the package came in there, and we had a discussion on that, and that is in fact.
Kathleen Krager,
Krager,
Transportation Manager for the city. I go out of town for 1 week and everything falls apart. No, the city actually brought this up to the state. I'll expect your gift basket later. The reason for these is that the intersection of Powers and Constitution is one that we're looking at trying to spend some bigger dollars on to extend the life of that signalized intersection, probably by going to a CFI. The actual signal out there right now is one that the city maintains for the state. It's in pretty good condition. We think we can keep it up and running for a while longer, so there was sort of no point putting money into that when we wanted to put a lot more money into that, or at least a little bit more money into that in the future. The other 2 signals are on South Nevada. The city has an urban renewal authority that has just been approved for South Nevada. We are in the process of working out a highway swap so that South Nevada in that section would become a city street instead of a state highway. And we want to do intersection work there that goes beyond what the state would be doing for signal improvements. So we just thought, it would be wise to not waste money and improve those signals at this time.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Kathleen, you did mention CFI, I know you hurt my head when you explained that to me, but if you could then very shortly explain what that is.
Certainly. A CFI is a continuous flow intersection. They're rather new. In fact, where I was gone when this all came up was Salt Lake City, where I drove maybe 12 to 20 CFIs to look at different designs and see how they work. The principle of a CFI is to increase the capacity of the signal without turning it into an interchange. And you do that by taking the left turns on the main road and have them occur before the intersection at a new signalized intersection that signal just accommodates the left turns. And those left turns then go into a frontage road that's adjacent to the road. They come up at the crossroad for the main signal. And when you have the green light for through traffic on the main road, you can also do those left turns at the same time instead of having to have a separate phase for the left turns. And what that does is give us additional green time that we can give to a movement that really needs it at the intersection by removing the green left turn phase. And if you want to see one in action, just stick around for about a year because the city is just beginning construction of one at Woodman and Union. Thank you.
Great choice of places to begin one.
Thank you.
And just a quick comment too. Thank you, Kathleen. She beat me to the punch. But the turn lane at Mesa Ridge, to clarify, we're not adding a turn lane there. We're actually adding a turn lane at Bradley by restriping Bradley. We are improving the intersection at Mesa Ridge. So those two intersections will have new signals. So that's just a clarification.
Okay, that's great. Any other questions? Ready to entertain a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve FY 2016-19 TIP Amendment number 11.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments? Any comments from the audience? I forgot to ask for that. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Message passage. Yeah. Motion passes. Easy for me to say. Action item number 2, state legislation. Rachel?
Good morning. Rachel Beck, Policy and Communication Manager. You all should have received a hot off the presses tracker in your email yesterday. I have a few printed copies here if someone would like one. And I'll pull that up here real quick as well. I'll just highlight bills that have either been identified by the board or staff as something that PPACG should take a position on, and a few other items of interest. And then if there are any other bills that you'd like to discuss in detail, we can do that. First item I'll mention is there have been a number of bills introduced, 8 to be precise, in regards to the election process. So we're keeping an eye on those, and those will be particularly of interest to you in your roles as county commissioners, city council members, town board members. A number of them are, however, assigned to the committee that's informally known as the Kill Committee. So a lot of them aren't expected to go very far. The board has previously voted to support 3 bills. The first is House Bill 1018, which concerns the Transportation Advisory Committee procedures. That is on the floor of the Senate. The second, modifying the Transportation Commission membership, has a committee hearing tomorrow. And the wildfire mitigation tax credit, unfortunately, was postponed indefinitely due to its significant fiscal impact. In addition, staff recommends that the board support 2 bills. The first is House 1061, Military Installation Transportation Needs Planning. This is one that states that the needs of military installations will be given full consideration in the statewide transportation planning process. The current bill just kind of strengthens that language, and our understanding is that that was largely brought to the legislature thanks to efforts by the Regional Business Alliance's Military Affairs Council. And I see Mr. Jorgensen here in the audience. Not sure if that was one you wanted to comment on. Okay, no comment.
Smart man.
The CAC and the TAC recommend supporting that bill. Questions or comments on that one? Mr. Chair, would you like motions on these individually, or shall we wait till the end?
Why don't you run through the whole thing, and then we can group them as necessary.
Okay. The next one on the list then is House 1138. This concerns funding for state infrastructure for transportation projects specifically. We've seen this bill before. Some of you may be familiar with the rather complicated funding procedure that indicates that if there is extra money above and beyond the state's general fund budget, then a certain percentage will be transferred to the Highway Users Fund, unless there is so much extra money that we go into a Tabor refund situation, which is the case this year. So what this bill proposes is that for every year that we do not make a transfer, we extend the window of time that it's possible. The theory is that there would be 5 full years that those transfers are made. This bill is not expected to go very far. However, it has been the board's past position that we need to increase funding for transportation in the state, and so that is why staff is recommending that we support this bill.
Question.
Why is it that this bill won't go very far? It seems to make perfect sense to me.
Currently, it does not have a lot of support, and it is assigned to the Kill Committee.
In other words, you do not support this bill, is that correct?
We are recommending that the board support it.
Okay.
Does that help?
Okay, those are the ones that staff recommends support. I think lumping them all together at this point, you don't have another one on there, right?
That's correct.
I'd entertain a motion to support those. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Comments?
Can I ask a question? Rachel, I know that usually on our list, you put down here whether Colorado counties or Colorado Municipal League support these, and I don't see that on here, so do we know on those?
You're right. I have omitted that. I apologize. They do support the Military Installation Transportation Needs Planning Bill, 1061. I am not sure about 1138.
I don't think it's progressed.
Okay. I will check on that and give you an update.
Yeah, because we do meet Thursday and Friday, so our meetings, so. Okay.
Do you want to postpone this one, or do you want to?
1038.
Yeah.
Norm's a new vice chair, aren't you, transportation? Congratulations.
Oh, congratulations, Dave.
Transportation Committee. So do you want to wait on that one, or do you feel okay?
Is it 1038 or 1138? 1138.
There is a committee hearing on that bill on February 24th. So if the board would like to take a position, I would recommend doing it
I
now.
think we should proceed, though. We can still act in kind of like CCI, CML. I mean, certainly it's appropriate for us to act, so I think we should act.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? We have a motion on the floor. Last call for comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
All right, thank you. There are 2 bills.
Lines, yes.
Yes. 2 bills that staff recommends the board oppose. The first is Senate Bill 11. This bill proposes that the current funds that are required to go from faster funds to transit projects instead be sent to road safety projects. That's $15 million per year on a statewide basis. It means about $700,000 locally. That money goes to Mountain Metro, Silver Key Senior Services, and a few other private transportation providers, as well as to Mustang Service, which serves our area. This bill is widely opposed by our TAC, our CAC, CCI, CML, CDOT. It might be easier to tell you who does not oppose this bill. And Commissioner Steen, may I put you on the spot? You had a very articulate email that you were kind enough to copy me on, articulating some reasons why this is a bad idea, maybe
Yeah.
you could just.
Well, we've been corresponding with Representative Terry Carver. She's on the Transportation Committee, House Energy Committee, and after conversation on 3 reasons that we articulated, many others chimed in on, so thank you for your help. She's agreed to oppose this bill as well. So this is a Republican-sponsored bill, and full disclosure, I'm a Republican as well, but she is opposing the House, the committee leadership on this one. So she's taking a strong position on our behalf. So you can send your thanks to Representative Terry Carver, and we'll see how this bill fares.
Did anybody else chime in on that one?
Several did. Mount Metro did.
Well, I would expect Mountain Metro
sure.
to chime in, but.
Yeah. I've got the email string. I can follow if you want to take a moment, but I don't think I want to take the time to do that. But anyway, I think with the strong opposition from CML, CCI, it's not going to go very far as well. I did talk to House Representative Polly Lawrence, House 39. She's the deputy House Minority Leader, and she indicated that she does not think that Senate Bill 11 will go anywhere in the House.
I have heard that as well. This is one we've seen last year in a slightly different iteration, though, so I don't think this issue is going to go away.
Yeah.
And PPACG is charged with multimodal transportation, not just roads. And as one city staffer who shall remain nameless said, this bill would effectively turn CDOT into the Department of Highways.
Yeah.
So multimodal transportation requires funding, and while this is a small portion of faster fees, it has a huge impact on our transit operations locally. And you've just heard the Colonel from Schriever asking for more Mountain Metro service, so this would seem to contradict such efforts.
Right. Yeah, so I don't think this is going to go anywhere. It's not. It may pass the Senate, but that'll maybe its end.
Any other comments on this one? I'll put my own 2 cents in there. It caught my attention when this one came up, and I was rather surprised to see it, the impact on Metro. But I do understand the rationale of looking at sources of funds, whether the faster was the appropriate place. So I have to say that I do have reservations on opposing it. But the impacts are pretty significant. And
Yeah, they're just looking anywhere they can for there's the budget to balance, and they're looking for places to do that.
There's budget to balance. They have to do it. So I appreciate the fact that Representative Carver has taken a position, and I'll back her on that. Any other comments coming in? No. Moving on.
All right, the next on the list is Senate Bill 30, which concerns motor vehicle weight violation surcharges. This one is, staff is largely recommending that the board oppose, thanks to some real concerns from our Transportation Advisory Committee. And I'd like to echo Jennifer's comments. That was a very helpful discussion, and I very much appreciate the tax input, particularly on this bill. There are specifics in the bill about how those fees would change. The bottom line is it would mean a significant reduction in revenue. That revenue goes toward transportation systems maintenance. And when vehicles are overweight, they're putting additional wear and tear on the roads. So this seems to be a case where the fee matches what we're doing with the money. I know there are some concerns about how those fees are calculated, and I think that was the impetus for this bill. But we think that there may be some better ways to address that issue. Questions, comments?
Question, comments on that one?
Just a quick comment, too, Chair, is that Max Tyler is the chair. He is sponsoring this bill, so we're going to find some opposition to our opposition on this one. Its strongest proponent was CMCA, the Colorado Motor Carriers Association, which is trying to, because these fees for violation of overweight go directly to the operator of that vehicle. And you're a guy, and you get a bill for $4,000 because you were overweight on a highway, didn't have clearance. So they're just trying to protect their own employees, I think, is its primary. And CMCA is I don't know how many hundreds of motor carriers are going to try to support this advance. So that's our opposition on this one. So.
I don't believe the bill actually addresses who pays the fee. It's
No, it
just how
doesn't.
much it is,
It
so that's
doesn't.
an interesting
It
way to
doesn't,
address
but-
that issue.
But functionally, the CMCA, Motor Carriers Association, is trying to protect their viability of their workforce, and they have a hard enough time to find operators of heavy trucks, so they're trying just to, protect their own workforce. That's their logic, I think. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on that one? You also have highlighted here 1205?
Oh, yes, thank you. That is one that has come up since I sent you this memo, so thank you, Mr. Chair, for reminding me of that. I heard that, Commissioner Clark.
Pardon.
Aha, thank you. This bill was introduced in the last week and would allow motorcycles to drive between lanes, between vehicles during times of traffic, as well as on shoulders. Our Transportation Director, Mr. Casper, has pointed out that we have a very high motorcycle fatality rate right now, and staff does not feel that this would help that.
Did you, just so that I can understand that clearly, this was to say it'd be legal for motorcycles to go between cars
That is correct.
in a lane?
This is allowed in California currently. I'm not sure about other states, so maybe some of you who have driven there have experienced this.
Well, I've experienced it, but that's terrifying. Mayor Ortega.
I was just going to say, we were in California last summer, and being from Colorado, I'm driving in my lane, and all of a sudden there's a motorcyclist staring right at me. It was scary. It's not something I would recommend.
Yeah, I'm from California. I'm a refugee from California, and that is terrifying when that comes by there. I have to agree that's.
And then, Rachel, this doesn't come with a companion helmet law?
No.
Oh, just checking.
I think a suit of armor law
Yeah.
would be.
What about little bitty cars? If they can go fast enough.
Smart cars.
Do you mean shoulders? Yes, that's correct.
Okay, is that, that's not in a kill committee, is it?
You guys are going to get me in trouble.
I understand that measure is dead. I'm sorry.
Sure, this is devolving.
Devolving fast. Okay, is this is not assigned to a kill committee, is it? This is actually moving forward?
No, that is assigned to Transportation and Energy.
So do you need motions on all of this, or what do
well,
we need to do?
that's
or
coming
we're
up.
going to do it at the end?
That's coming up next. Do you have any other?
Those are all the
others
bills
coming
that
up?
staff recommends the board oppose.
Okay, I entertain a motion at this time to oppose all.
Move to oppose.
Go. I'll take that as a second.
This is not we're not talking about the assisted suicide.
Or Gordon.
Okay. I think that was a second, right? I have a
Yes.
motion and a second. Any other comments?
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair, was that for all three bills or just the motorcycle lane bill?
I think
all
that was
three.
for all
Okay,
three,
thank you.
right? Okay. Any last comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Two more I'd like to highlight quickly. Senate Bill 25, the end-of-life options for terminally ill individuals, is one that our ombudsman and our caretaker program manager have been watching very closely. That is sponsored by Mr. Merrifield, local. That was postponed indefinitely in the Senate. However, it is still alive in the House and scheduled for a second reading next week. The other is Senate Bill 46, which concerns responding to the EPA's Clean Power Plan rules. And I know that's of particular interest to a number of you. This morning, of course, we all heard the news that the Supreme Court has stayed those rules. But I'll give you a quick overview of the bill anyway. The Those rules require states to submit a plan to the EPA detailing how they will comply with the plan. The states can qualify for a 2-year extension by filing an initial submission while they conduct a public process and fine-tune the plan. And Chris, I'm looking at you if you want to jump in at any point here. This bill would direct the Air Quality Control Commission, which is a group that PPACG works with very closely, to conduct that public input process, which would qualify us for the 2-year extension. Then submit a report prepared jointly with the Public Utilities Commission to the General Assembly. The bill indicates that the Air Quality Control Commission cannot submit the plan to the EPA unless the General Assembly approves it with a joint resolution. So that's adding a bit to an already complicated process. A lot of players proposed there.
Trustee Smith?
Does this deal with just the power plant itself or the community as a whole?
This is concerning the statewide plan. So our community would work with other communities, submit how we will deal with our own air quality issues to the state, who puts all that together into a plan. And again, I think Chris is going to talk more about this during his report probably in a short time. But, or you want to jump in now?
We're currently
Well, we do have that as an agenda item, but if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll wait to talk about the Supreme Court stay for just a minute. But for this bill itself, what it would do is impose legislative review of the state plan before it is submitted to EPA. And as Rachel said, it would require the Air Quality Control Commission to work with the Public Utilities Commission and prepare a joint report describing the effects of the plan, how it impacts emissions as well as the economy and several other factors.
And I have to say, I rather agree with that idea myself. But anyway, that's not really on the table at this particular point, is it?
That's your call.
Okay.
Staff has not recommended taking a position. We are simply monitoring this bill for now. But if the board wishes to take a position, that is certainly in your purview.
I would be in favor of that, but I don't think it's all that urgent at this point, given the court action. Any other comments?
I can just read the governor's statement today, which really doesn't say a whole lot, if you'd like me to.
Okay, yes, please.
On his press release today. While we're still reviewing the implications of the Supreme Court's decision, we remain committed to having the cleanest air in the nation. We'll continue to build upon the great strides we've made as a state with the Clean Air, Clean Jobs Act and our renewable energy standard to protect our public health and environment. I'm not sure that I really got a position out of that one either, so probably just monitor at this
I think
point.
probably just monitor is sufficient at this time. On the end-of-life options for terminally ill, you say that is still in the House and is still being considered. I would recommend, given the impact that it has on some of our programs here, that we take an active position to oppose that. You want? Anybody else? Hearing no action, we'll move on at this time.
All right. Any other bills that anyone would like more information on? Oh, I have not been following that one. I see one of my colleagues from CDOT in the back row. If I could put him on the spot. I believe you're referring, Commissioner, to the tire. Yes.
Oh, you mean, yeah. Yeah, that's what it's rated as snow tire.
That's one that we requested support for, obviously. A little bit about our internal process at CDOT. Oh, I'm Aaron Greco. I'm a local liaison for CDOT, Office of Policy and Government Relations. Apologize. A little bit about our internal process. We in order for us to oppose a piece of legislation or support a piece of legislation as an agency, we need to get approval from the governor. So, why most bills that have a transportation impact, especially if they have a fiscal impact to our agency, we weigh in, we give our analysis of the bill. We don't oppose or support everything. There's quite a lengthy process to do that. However, this is one that we obviously are supporting. So I don't know the status of it, though, off the top of my head. I was going to try and pull that on my phone. So what I can do is I can send a couple of texts and try and pull something up and report back in a minute if you want. Yeah, thanks, Mark, for putting me on the spot.
Well, maybe I could just follow up, Mr. Chairs. This item was discussed in the last STAC meeting. The questions that came up, and no position was formally taken, I don't think, but what was discussed was whether or not, because it operates only over a narrow section of I-70, currently proposed, there was discussion of whether to include all mountain passes rather than simply a narrow segment, because what it would just do is divert people through Park County instead of coming up I-70. That's right, because the same rules wouldn't apply Park County over Hoosier Pass that would apply to I-70. So, no, I don't think any action was taken on the traction bill.
You're not getting and we do appreciate you skiing down the mountain to join us today. Sure. Okay.
Any others?
Any other questions?
Rich, I just asked that, we do communicate this to people on the committees. I would ask that we also communicate to our local delegation as well, all House and Senate representatives representing the Pikes Peak region, so that when it does come up at the full floor, they would know how their local leaders feel about legislation.
Okay.
Please. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the information items, I think it might be appropriate to take a short break before I do that. So we'll take 10 minutes.
They get the presentation. I don't know if Chris has a PowerPoint.
It's going to let me
We'll get that queued up.
How's everything going? So yeah, just like the meeting about the pool.
I would be the first to say this. We are great friends, and we create community. We all know what each other's doing, just in case. I'll have his
That is a head-hurting description here.
Especially when you fly in.
Check that out.
That's the Woodman Union interchange, right? Is that what?
Well, no, that's someplace else, but I mean, that's showing that's how it works.
Palmer Lane. Palmer. It's in front of your house.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a consultant standard.
Okay. Continuous flow intersection, CFI. So we're gonna put a couple of those around in Colorado Springs. Doing a copy paste from Utah. Anyway, coming back to order, we've got the Medicare open enrollment update.
Yeah, I think you can pause this. Who's got the? There it is.
Good morning, Joe Urban, Director of PPACG Area Agency on Aging. You have an information memo in your packet regarding open enrollment. We've got the final numbers put together. Basically, in a summary, we saw roughly 1,650 clients over a 2-month period, and that's about a 38% increase over what we've seen in the past. So we were very happy with that. The wait times were down. A lot of that is due to the fact that prior to me arriving, they revamped the system to have a little bit better flow, a little bit better universal case management system. So wait times were down, customer satisfaction was up, and we saw more people. Questions?
That was quick. Thank you. Now for a little longer one. Chris?
Thank you, Mr.
Chair. I'm Chris Colclager from the Air Pollution Control Division, and I think it's good timing that I get to come talk to you today. It's been 3, maybe 4 months since I've been here, but can talk about the Supreme Court's order yesterday that stayed the Clean Power Plan, and after that I'll also talk about the sulfur dioxide rule that affects the Martin Drake Power Plant. So as you probably know, EPA adopted a rule last fall that set a nationwide target to reduce carbon emissions from fossil fuel-fired power plants, coal and gas-fired power plants. And they set state-by-state targets. So CDPHE has been working with stakeholders, utilities, as well as local governments, environmental groups, and others, working to develop a plan to implement and hit those targets, to figure out what the best way is for us to hit those carbon targets. I can give you the dates of some upcoming meetings that we're still planning to hold, but yesterday things changed a little bit when the Supreme Court put the rule on hold with a stay. So a group of states, I believe, well, I forget the number of states, somewhere around 20 states, had sued EPA to challenge the rule, saying that EPA went beyond its authority. Some private groups also joined in that lawsuit. The lawsuit itself was pending in front of the D.C. Circuit, but the states had asked that court to put the rule on hold. That court said no, and so they appealed to the Supreme Court. And in a very unusual move, the Supreme Court granted a stay, saying that the rule is on hold pending the outcome of the litigation, including any future appeals to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's order is very short, 2 or 3 sentences. It really just says the stay is granted. It doesn't explain why. It doesn't explain what happens to the deadlines. And so here's some questions for us. We don't know exactly whether the compliance deadlines will change. What the rule says is that starting in 2022, the utilities have to meet these emission targets with a final attainment date of 2030. It's possible that the rule could go through litigation and be upheld, and those compliance dates would still be in effect. And so what we're doing, our response from the department, is we plan to keep developing our state plan, keep working with stakeholders to craft our plan, our method for achieving these carbon targets, so that if the rule is upheld, all of it or part of it, if the rule is upheld, we haven't lost that time, and we're still in a position to comply by 2022. So that's our approach going forward. That's not quite on the governor's website yet. I did look at the statement you were reading. But we have a statement that the department is releasing this morning, and I could forward that on to you to make sure you have it. But it's also very brief and says that we plan to proceed with developing the plan. And I expect that in the coming days we'll have some additional information. There may be some clarification from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals as to what would happen with those deadlines. As we go forward, I mentioned we've got some meetings coming up. So February 22nd at 9 a.m., we have a meeting at the CDPHE office in Denver. March 23rd at 5:30 p.m., we're meeting in Pueblo at the Carriage House. April 13th, we're meeting in Craig, also at 5:30 p.m. That's at the Moffett County High School. And so at each of these meetings, we'll give a presentation. We'll talk about the plan, the status of our work to develop a state plan, and we'll solicit public comment so members of the public can come up and take the microphone for a few minutes to give us their position on the plan. We have been soliciting comment for the duration of this plan since it came out in October. We've received about 100 individual comments, as well as a couple of mass email campaigns. And we're hearing from people on both sides of the spectrum. I think numerically there are more people who say they support the plan and that they want us to adopt stringent carbon emission limits. We also hear from people saying that they're concerned about the costs and they're concerned about potential job loss. Certainly we want to develop a plan that is smart, that minimizes the costs and minimizes disruption to the economy and puts us in a position for potential new jobs to be created in other parts of the energy economy. One of the things we're doing there is we're working with the utilities to help select a model that we could use to run some potential compliance scenarios and evaluate what the cost would be, evaluate what the emission reductions would be, and try to get some confidence that we would still be able to preserve a reliable and safe electric grid under the range of compliance scenarios, and that would help us to make better choices about what the regulatory framework would be. Our role as the department is to adopt a plan that allows the state to meet those targets. It's not our role to dictate resource planning decisions. So our plan is not going to be telling utilities, you must convert this unit from coal to gas, or you must build X number of wind turbines in order to meet the targets. What we'll do is we'll set a regulatory framework that allows utilities to meet these emission reduction targets, and presumably we'd have a trading framework in place to, as well as some other mechanisms to help give some flexibility for the utilities to decide what works best for them in order to meet these targets. That's a quick rundown on the Clean Power Plan. Do you have any questions about that before we move on to sulfur dioxide?
Any questions from the board? Yes.
Sure.
Do you anticipate anyone rethinking projected plant closings?
I expect that the utilities will look at that. I think I know there are a number of plants that are projected to close under the Clean Air, Clean Jobs Act. Some of those have already happened. Some coal units at the Arapahoe facility in Denver, as well as the Cherokee Unit 2, have already closed, and the Clark Station near Pueblo have closed. There are some that are scheduled. Valmont Unit 5 in Boulder is scheduled to close by the end of 2017, and Cherokee Unit 3 in Denver is scheduled to run exclusively on natural gas by the end of 2017. That's actually a dual fuel unit. A little bit closer to home, so Martin Drake has, the Utilities Board recently decided to close Martin Drake Unit 5 by the end of 2017, I believe.
That's correct.
And set a date no later than 2035 to retire Units 6 and 7. The way that would interplay with the Clean Power Plan, so closing Unit 5 by 2017 would get credit. That would count towards compliance with the Clean Power Plan. Units 6 and 7, if they close in 2035, that's after the final compliance date, so that would be too late to get credit under this plan, but I think the exact date was not determined, so that would still be up to the Utilities Board to decide what to do with Units 6 and 7.
Unit 6 was planned at the next wave of requirements, so the SCR, I think, was what Unit 6 was timed at, which is the 2022, 23, 24 timeframe, so it falls into that range. Unit 7 is still out at 2035. We also, just to clarify, we also have Nixon Power Plant is also affected by all this as well.
As far as other utilities around the state, there is a lot of change coming in the electric power sector. For example, Xcel Energy, about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, filed some documents with the Public Utilities Commission describing their plans for the next 10-year time frame, roughly. They called that Our Energy Future. They're talking about bringing on more wind generation as well as doing some more with energy efficiency, and they've got some programs to affect the rooftop solar market and how that is priced. So I do expect there will be additional changes, and yes, there will be consideration of what the generation mix will be going into the future, driven both by regulations and by economics. So a lot of that is driven by the age of the plants and which ones are more expensive to operate, as we keep seeing very inexpensive natural gas that is an incentive for people to rely more on gas instead of coal. Prices of renewables are dropping as well. So all of that is in the mix.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but you talked about wind generation. I've been told, I don't know how reliable this is, that those generators last about 25 years, and then in some cases they are abandoned. And long after they have ceased to produce energy. And I was wondering if anyone's looking at legislation that would require those to be dismantled and hauled off or something, that those funds be escrowed before they began generating and things like this. Because I know there are some places that consider them very much an eyesore.
I'm not aware of legislation that would do that, and there may already be requirements in place for that. I'm honestly not familiar with it.
Yes.
In El Paso County, there are requirements. We do not have, I don't believe, escrowed money, but the salvage value is so high that people want to take them down. The same, usually not the same, but we have those requirements for cell towers as well, and there is money escrowed there. So
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Yes.
Change gears real quick from air to water. Any updates that you would know about the waters of the U.S.? I know we've had 13 states that protest our legislation, and things are kind of moving quickly there.
I will say that I am not tracking that rule, but my understanding is that it went to a court in either North Dakota or perhaps Montana, if I remember correctly. That district court did enjoin the rule, essentially putting it on hold, and I think there's been a subsequent decision from the court that makes that injunction effective nationwide.
Yes.
But
It was.
It was, yeah.
Commissioner Clark, I don't know if you have any updates on.
Well, all we know too is that the Senate did try to block it with a bill and with the rule, and they were unsuccessful because they didn't get enough votes to override a presidential veto. So it's still there's another bill on the House side. I mean, Congress is in essence trying, but you just need enough because the president has said he'll veto any bill that comes through that blocks it. So. We're still continuing to work with National League of Cities and Conference of Mayors, National Association of Counties, and many others who are on board to not get this rule put in because we don't know. The clarity is just so bad. We don't know what a ditch is, and we don't know what's going to require an Army Corps permit and all that. So it's still in limbo. We're tracking it.
The fight.
Okay.
okay, maybe we'll switch to sulfur dioxide.
Sulfur dioxide.
So I'm sure you're aware that Colorado has a non-attainment area for ozone in the Denver Metro and North Front Range area. It's been out of attainment for quite a while, and that requires us to have a plan to bring it back into attainment and look at emission limits and monitoring things that we can do to attain the standard. We're going through a similar process with sulfur dioxide, so a different pollutant, but similar type of process. It's actually happening in 4 separate rounds. So a couple of years ago, we went through a first round of looking at regions of the state to designate them as either attaining the standard, not attaining the standard, or being unclassifiable. We don't have very many sulfur dioxide monitors. There used to be a pretty large nationwide network of monitors. Most of those were removed because after the acid rain program, there just weren't very many areas that were out of compliance, and so the decision was made that we don't need these monitors anymore. So most of them were taken out, but then the standard was made more stringent, it was tightened, and now we have to determine if we are attaining the new standard. So a couple of years ago, we found that some areas near Denver are in attainment, but most of the state was labeled as attainment/unclassifiable, which essentially meant we'd have to come back and make a decision once we had more information. So that was the first round of designations. Last year, we went through what was known as round 2, and that looked at the Martin Drake Power Plant, as well as the Cherokee unit near Denver. CDPHE made a recommendation that Martin Drake, or the area around that, should be designated as unclassifiable for the new sulfur dioxide standard. And that recommendation is now up to EPA, Region 8. They will make a final determination whether the Martin Drake region should be designated as attainment, unclassifiable, or non-attainment. A little bit of the rationale for our unclassifiable designation. So we had 2 sources of information. We had some monitoring data from some historic monitors, about 10, that were located throughout the Colorado Springs region and ran in the 1990s. Not all, they didn't all run for 10 years, but they ran for different intervals of time, some overlapping intervals over a span of several years. The data from those monitors would suggest that the region was attaining the standard, attaining the new standard, the more stringent standard. But we weren't sure that those monitors were in exactly the right spot. We also had some information provided by third parties. A number of residents of Colorado Springs and Monument had hired a private consultant and also did some work with the Sierra Club to provide modeling to us that projected exceedances of the standard, that projected that the region would be out of attainment. So we had 2 conflicting sources of information, went through a hearing in front of the Air Quality Control Commission and made a recommendation that EPA designate the area around the plant as unclassifiable, with the intent that we would come back to take another look at this region in the following rounds of these designations.
So that's where it stands now. I anticipate getting a final decision from EPA this summer. We, of course, are hopeful that EPA follows our recommendation of unclassifiable. Several actions are underway at Martin Drake to address sulfur dioxide emissions. Closing Unit 5 will be one step that reduces emissions. There are also emission controls being installed on Units 6 and 7. I believe they're finished at Unit 7, but still under construction at Unit 6. And this is known as the Newman system. It's a new type of technology that's being used to reduce sulfur dioxide emissions. These controls are required by the regional haze rule that we went through, I believe it was 2014. I may be mixing up that year. But there are requirements to reduce emissions in order to improve visibility in national parks. That's the regional haze rule. It has an additional benefit that if you take the sulfur out of the air to improve visibility, it also has health benefits as well. So, another costly and controversial regulation. But it is on the books, and it does, those controls are coming. And so from our perspective, that was really another reason to go ahead and wait and take a little additional time to see what the emissions will be from Martin Drake after those controls are in place and operational. That's round 2 of the designations. As I said, there's round 3 and 4 that are coming up. These would look at some additional units around the state. EPA will have to make designations for 8 areas around the state, including Martin Drake, by 2017, or if the power plants choose to install monitors, then that time frame would be extended to 2020. So those are coming down the road. But the way that it affects Martin Drake for now is that we have made a recommendation that the area should be classified as unclassifiable, with the intent that we'll take another look when we have some additional data. And I think that sums it up. Questions about Martin Drake or sulfur?
That'll be sent on an unclassified system, right?
Yes, it will.
I'm sorry.
We'll use an official state account to do that. Thank you.
Okay, no comments, questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Next is the TIP Amendment 12.
I think I can say good afternoon almost now.
Somewhere.
Yeah. This is TIP Amendment number 12 is an administrative modification to the TIP. This amendment adds state funding to the Rainbow Bridge Falls Bridge project of $1.191 million. This action was made because my understanding of the history of that project is that it has been underfunded and they were not receiving bids at all when they put it out on the street. So this move hopefully will bring it up to providing the adequate funding to get the project off the ground and bids to come in and move forward. So the second one is the City of Colorado Springs, the Platte Avenue Bridge replacement. This is just a funding swap. The original programming showed just local dollars. This is funding swap with PPRTA dollars. So they're supplanting the local dollars with PPRTA dollars. This was approved by PPACG's Director of Transportation. It's been processed and it's been added to the TIP. This is an informational item just to make sure that you guys are aware that these actions have been made.
Okay.
Any questions?
One comment? Thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, CDOT. Yes.
Glad to see Rainbow Bridge.
On that bridge replacement, I know down below that bridge, there were a lot of communication lines that frequently washed out. Does this proposed bridge address any of those concerns?
I am unaware of that, but I don't. Do we have? Are we talking about the Rainbow Falls Bridge? The Rainbow, the Platte Avenue
Bridge.
I'm unaware of any of that.
Kathleen?
Thank you, Kathleen Krager, Transportation Manager. I believe that bridge replacement project includes several new drop structures on Sand Creek, so that should help with flooding problems and that type of issue that the communication lines may have. And those will be total bridge replacements that include a widening of the bridge to allow a left turn lane to be built on the eastbound bridge.
I'm assuming just because of proximity to the, possibly some of those lines might serve Peterson, I don't know.
You never know with communication lines, but whoever they serve, I'm sure they're important.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.
Mr. Chair, could I make another comment?
Yes, please.
I apologize. I neglected to mention while I was speaking before that the Air Quality Control Commission holds an annual retreat, and this year we're planning to hold the retreat in Colorado Springs in June. And so that would be a forum for members of the public as well as the PPACG, if you choose to do so, to give any comments to the Commission on the Clean Power Plan or sulfur dioxide designations or any other topics you wish to bring up. So that would be the third Thursday in June. I believe that's the 18th. If I could take a quick look at my calendar. But the Commission would hold a business meeting during the day. They would have a session typically during the evening where they accept public comment.
Okay, if you send us the information on that, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly.
I'll send it out to the board.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And tip policy.
Good morning, Craig Casper, Transportation Director. This is a proposed policy change. We sought information from the advisory committees. It was actually proposed by El Paso County. There is a category of funding called emergency relief funds that have a very thorough vetting and application process. El Paso County is going to be eligible for those. Right now, the TIP policy does not allow those funds to go in with an administrative modification. It requires going through the advisory committees and then to the board for approval. What El Paso County staff has proposed is to allow those funds to go in as an administrative modification like you just did on the previous item with Amendment 12. You still get all the information, but what it does is allows us to turn around. 24 hours is our time frame to turn around administrative modification. So we get it in, put it in the tip, and put it on the web. That way, PPACG is not the slowdown in the process to get funds through the contracting and tip process. It was very popularly received at both the TAC and the CAC, and so unless there's some real concerns, we'll take that through as a amendment to our tip policy this month, so next month you would see it as a proposed policy change.
Okay. Yes.
Would you have the authority to sign that emergency?
Yep.
Transportation Director?
Yeah.
Okay.
So 24 hours and get it out.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Great. Moving right along, member entity announcements. Anyone have anything to toss in for the good group?
A couple things. I briefly referred to, but I was, just a personal matter, was elected as the vice chair of the Colorado County's Transportation and Telecommunications Steering Committee. So legislation that CCI takes a position on, as a vice chair of that committee, will influence that legislation to the legislature. So if there are matters affecting statewide that you'd like to take a position on, please give me a call or email. Second thing is this weekend is the Ice Festival in Cripple Creek. So if you, then the theme this year is How the West Was Carved. So expect a little more traffic up 67 down to Cripple Creek, and please join us for a good time this weekend and the following.
Awesome.
There's a lot of snow up there?
I know. No, well, it did, but it's coming down. Roads are clear.
Okay. Any other member entity announcements? Okay. Seeing none, our meeting schedule is on the back of our agenda. And nothing forward. No further business. We are adjourned. 11:15. Awesome.
That one. We're on that one.
Tyler?